I'd like to call this meeting to order. Please stand for the flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Patty, roll call, please.
Mrs. Chamberlain.
Here.
I was going to say, Mrs. Saylor.
Here.
She's coming. Thank you. Mrs. Corey.
Here.
Mr. Dilks.
Here.
Colonel Hensky.
Here.
Dr. Jones.
Here.
Mr. Lepsis.
Here.
Dr. McCloy.
Here.
Mrs. Shoemaker.
Here.
Thank you.
In compliance with the Open Public Meetings Act, this is to announce that adequate notice that this meeting was given in the following manner. On December 29th, 2020, notice of this meeting was transmitted to the Burlington County Times and the Central Record, filed with the Township Clerk, and posted in the office of the Business Administrator Board Secretary. Additional notification was made on February 26, 2021 in the Burlington County Times to inform the public that this meeting will be held remotely utilizing Zoom. Notification was also posted on both the district website and the district app. I direct the Business Administrator Board Secretary to enter this statement into the minutes. To start us off tonight, we're going to do a little presentation for the school finance snapshot by Ms. Patty Palmieri and Mr. Sean Bannon.
Sean, do you have the presentation? Thank you.
I got you covered, Patty.
Thank you. He knows I'm Zoom challenged. Talking and Zooming at the same time. So what I just wanted to do tonight, and a couple people have asked, is to just kind of refresh where we are. We are submitting our budget as soon as, if it's approved this evening, I'll be submitting it to the county hopefully tomorrow or Wednesday. So I wanted to give everyone a little idea. I mean, there's so many things happening in the district. I wanted to kind of refocus us and tell you guys what the actual numbers are. So go ahead, Sean. So the first thing, and of course, the largest impact that we have on the district right now is the state aid reductions. Everyone has heard or about the reductions. There was a legislative bill called S2 passed in the spring of 2018. For years and years and years, different governors always spoke about funding the formula, and there is a formula for state aid. And at one point in time, from around 2009, the formula froze. And so any increase or decrease in enrollment and other things did not impact the state aid. So what happened in 2018, they decided that we're going to implement this, and there are many districts out there, smaller ones like ours, that are being impacted in the negative. What this does is it modifies the school funding law to eliminate adjustment aid and state growth aid limits. If a district is considered over adequacy, which means the state is funding more than its fair share and we're not funding quite as enough of our fair share, which is all defined by the state, not by us, then they start to reduce the aid. And the calculation of the aid every year does include the weighted average enrollment, and different categories of the enrollment are weighted differently. A K to fourth grader is weighted differently than a fifth to eighth grader. A high school student is weighted differently. A special education student is weighted differently. So you can go ahead, Sean. So just to recap, what's happened in the district since the state aid started to be reduced. As of this year, the district has lost $1.8 million in aid. And that's a significant portion of the budget. And by the time we're finished, it'll be around a 20% hit of the budget. So what it looks like in the future is based on what they did to us this year, I've calculated that next year's loss is going to be $639,000. The 21-22 loss was $682,000. We had an original estimate of a little bit less, and the difference is enrollment. And there's a $682,000. So based on that I extrapolated what I think is the 639,000. Now it could go either way. If our enrollment goes up, then that number, that 639 will come down. We have 2 big years to get through. We have the 21-22 year and the 22-23 year of some significant state aid loss coming. Once that happens, I mean, $397,000 is still a lot of money, but in comparison to losing 640,000, it has. And then I think, honestly, to tell you the truth, once 2024 and 2025 hit, every year you're going to either get an increase or a decrease. I can see, there's going to be a wave depending on enrollment. But we're looking at over the next 3 years, $1.1 million. So overall, the district is going to be losing around $3 million in state aid that it's dependent on for a number of years, and that it's used to educate our children. We have implemented, and we'll get into some of the ways we're managing it. And the district, has tried over the last few years, and successfully so, to manage this. This is not something small. This is, a large chunk of a budget. And, we are this is constantly on everyone's minds whenever we're doing anything. This is the overriding faction. So the next slide talks about enrollment. And as you can see, from 2009 to 2020, we've lost a significant number of students. And I think in some of the more rural areas or some of the more quiet areas of the state, this has happened. We have a lovely town in Tabernacle, so we have a lot of people who, once their children go into high school, don't move on to a smaller home or a different place. They stay in Tabernacle because it's really very nice. So we're not seeing that turnover of homes being sold with a lot of families coming in. As a reaction to this, from the 2017, 2018 to current, as you can see, as the enrollment decreases, there have been some significant staffing decreases actually as well. We have had, over the last 3 or 4 years, 8.5 teachers who have resigned, retired, that have not been replaced. And Sean can address the way that they handled that. We've had 2 secretaries that have not been replaced. We've had 3 custodians who haven't been replaced and 2 administrators. So the district has responded to the decreasing enrollment. And Sean, if you want to talk a little bit about the classrooms.
So in terms of the classroom, obviously we've done certain things in terms of looking at people with multiple certifications to juggle multiple areas. We've done different things and include such as increasing some class sizes, of really just trying to look at all of our programs and not say this is the number of staff that we have, therefore we have to build a schedule based on that, but looking at the number of students we have and building our schedules based on the number of students. That's something that we've done, and something we'll continue to do. And really looking strictly in terms of student needs for class sizes, IEP needs, to making sure we're meeting that with our special ed teaching staff and so on. And like I said, making sure that when we're hiring people, we are having a lot of people that have multiple certifications, which gives us a lot of flexibility than just simply saying that this person is locked in and only being able to teach this one core area, which has been a great thing for us in terms of having this reduction we see here with our enrollment trends, that have people who can teach multiple areas, provides more flexibility for us when we're doing scheduling, and therefore doesn't mean that we have to hire someone with just a specified cert because they can fill multiple holes all at once. So that's been a big cost savings for the district. And like Patty said too, we've also made some major reductions of having people wear multiple hats, whether it's our custodians who are driving buses or serving as maintenance personnel as well, or in terms of our administrative roles of our 3 instructional administrators, as is looked at as Melissa, Casey, and me, all having multiple departments under us in terms of the people that were decreased and combined into the roles that we now fill as well. So our district has been very prudent in making some very tough decisions. I'm sure that, and again, I know I have not been here for a lot of these. I'm sure that a number of the board members were, and you had some very difficult conversations, I'm sure, to make difficult decisions, whether at times it was reducing staff, letting people go, making these combined moves and to put the district in the best fiscal shape it can be. Because again, some of these moves were made before the harder hit years that we're now experiencing with S2. But by doing those cuts when they were made, has hopefully made it so that our district can not just survive through these cuts, but flourish, and making sure that our students are getting the best educational possible throughout this time period.
Okay, so that pretty much sums up the area we are with state aid and what is impacting it. The next area that's a new impact on our district, and you've heard me talk about this a little bit, it's called Chapter 44. In July of 2020, a new law was enacted which created two new state health benefit plans. Now, Tabernacle has not participated in state health benefits. We've been part of the SHIF, which is a self-insured fund. And typically, because you combine together with other districts and you find the best pricing, it's a very, we get really good plans, quality plans, but it's also a reduced cost because you're sharing the burden, just like a joint insurance fund for our liability and workers' comp and things like that. The state came and said, effective immediately, we're going to reduce anyone who chooses one of these two new state health benefit plans. The healthcare contribution on the employee side will be reduced. So as of July 1st, any new hire, which includes a lot of your administrators, myself, any new teachers, any new custodians, any new bus drivers, anyone, is required to go into this plan. We do not have a choice. And we are in this plan for 7 years. We are not allowed to opt out. And that basically is a grab, in my opinion, from the state of, I guess the state health benefit plan was a lot of people were leaving, and this was a way, and this was also a relief for employees. This is a way for them to pay a little bit less money out of their pocket, but in turn, that does revert back to the district. You can go ahead, Sean.
There's no overall savings. It's just a shifting of cost.
No, there's. I'm sorry, Brian. I know what you mean.
So, does the plan cost less? Does the district save money on this, or it costs the district?
It costs the district.
To us.
There is not any savings to us. The plan difference between the shift cost and this plan's cost is roughly $6 cheaper for this plan.
But how much more does it cost the district for each?
So right now, the cost of the district for the 21-22 budget is going to be a $93,000 expense.
To save $6.
Yeah.
And Brian, just real quickly, one of the things that's helped the district in the past is we did the shift. We were in that cost saving measure. So, I guess in theory, this may have saved districts money who didn't do something as proactively as we did.
Yes.
But we already put in cost savings measures to make sure our district was doing things as fiscally responsible as possible. So like Patty said, a $6 savings, it only hurts us, and maybe it helps other districts, but ultimately, you see on this slide here, it's almost a $93,000 loss to the district from this. And
the state has implemented a data collection software that we all had to go in and enter all of our information, because they're trying to see which districts were hit by it and which districts were benefiting from it. So the information, of course, that we put in shows that we are, at a loss with this. And where it is, it's all in the employee contribution. In Chapter 78, there was a percentage of your salary, but that percentage was then taken of the insurance premium. Now it's just a straight out smaller percentage of your salary. So it does result in a higher insurance premium to the district. And right now we have a less than 50% taking advantage of this right now. So the district faces some other challenges. As we all know, salary and benefits are pretty much the heart of the budget. They take up the most. And, as our levy stays flat at 2%, everything else goes up, most likely higher than 2%. Our salary and benefits, while we are in the shift, we are still subject to changes if the shift has a bad year. If we have a bad year, sometimes it will play out through that to us. Normal costs of increases of all goods and services, everything goes up, nothing really does go down. we have buildings that are aging and that we have maintenance that's required, and we're working on plans for those. And then we have additional expenses that no district, I think, expected due to the COVID situation and the pandemic. So these are challenges that our district is facing. But Sean, if you go to the next slide. So how we're managing.
Patty,
Yes.
it's Steve. So we have to have some sort of reserve to take care of the buildings and facilities and infrastructure and everything else, right?
Yes.
On
And
top of that, go ahead, I'm sorry.
no, go ahead, finish, and then I'm sorry.
And then I know Sean has talked to us about our IT infrastructure and how we really need to work hard at getting that up to speed in order to make sure that, it's secure and we're doing the best thing we can do. So that all takes, those are costs that we can't necessarily budget to, or how do we take care of that?
So to address the reserve issue, yes, the district is doing, we're trying really hard, knowing that it would be very difficult to bond in the future. So we're trying to build up our capital reserve and our maintenance reserve, so that when there is a building issue, or a new an area needs to be, a roof needs to be redone, or a bathroom, there's an issue with a bathroom, that we have those funds available. When we met with our auditors, and Brian, you can attest to this, they did tell us that we were working towards our reserves in a prudent manner, so that we do have that money available when something happens. And so I'm going to incorporate your question about IT in one other comment. The way we managed our budget this year, which was, we did a zero-based budget, which means we wiped our budget out from previous years and started from zero, and said, while you may need $15,000 for product A, first of all, is product A what we need? Is product A fitting the district? Is product A what's going to take us over the next 5 years? And we are constantly, actually almost on a daily basis, doing a district-wide needs assessment. Every time we talk about something, every time we look at IT, that we look at curriculum, that we look at something in the facility. The admin team consists of myself, Sean, Mrs. Gallagher, Mr. Casey, Mr. McKean, and our IT manager, Mr. Calderwood, and our facilities manager, Mr. Neiman. The six of us, we all have this routine together now where it's like, okay, what are we doing? What do we need? How long can it get? We don't ever want to purchase or do anything that doesn't have a long-term impact on the district. It's useless and senseless to buy something for 1 year, or to fix something that's going to just get us to the next moment that it breaks. So we are trying very desperately, as you'll see in some of the items that are on the agenda tonight, as in the real time, and in some of the items that we're going to be bringing to you over the next few months, including IT. We know that the situation that we have, and there's some infrastructure issues, and as we're looking at them, from the perspective of, okay, here's the problem, but we want to have multiple solutions to it and multiple options. And the one option that we never talk about is, like I said, something that just fixes it today. It's got to be something that can sustain us over the next 3 to 5 years. And then what we can do is put a plan in place. Once we hit those milestones, then we can have a plan in place where every year we have a revolving upkeep of whatever we need. So if we get our infrastructure where it needs to be for IT, then in year 3, when we're looking at something, then we're saying, okay, well, it's time to replace these 15 items. So then that they give us another 5 years of life. And that's where we're trying to make really smart and efficient decisions, and not knee-jerk decisions because of the situation that we're in. And long-term planning, we're doing a lot of planning. Right now we're, opening the buildings and trying to get everybody back from a pandemic, but we're also trying to figure out long-term plans. We have to reevaluate our long-range facility plan. Kyle and myself and the IT department are going to come up with a technology plan once we know all of our needs, and then how many, what should be replaced over how many years, what needs to be, reviewed, maps and things like that. In curriculum, we're doing the same thing. In special education, we're doing the same thing. So we are constantly looking at, they know that when they knock on the BA's door, there's some standard questions that are going to be asked before, first is, do our kids need it? What do we have to do? What do we have to do to make our kids better? Okay, then how do we plan? And we back into the best decision that we can make. And then the one thing I did not put on here, we are looking for interesting and new ways to make our district unique and bring in some different revenues that could bolster different programs that we have. And some of you saw some of that in the budget presentation that I gave to you. We're looking at, nothing's off the table and nothing's inside the box. Because I think that's what we need to think. We have to think uniquely, and we have to think, what can we do, and not just for doing its sake. What can we do? What do we need to do? Where do we need to be in 3 years? Where do we need to be in 5 years? How is this going to help us? How is this going to maintain the level of education and instruction that we're giving to our children? And I think that we can do this. I think the stakeholders involved, the board, the administration, the teachers, the students, and the families, we're coming together, and we're figuring this out. And there are avenues that we can travel. I think that we can make this work.
And just to revisit Colonel Henske's comment about the reserves a few minutes ago, our budget this year, we're using $75,000 from reserves, which means money we were able to squirrel away in years past due to the savings we needed are now available to us for this year in our maintenance budget.
Yes.
That $75,000 is rough numbers, roughly the equivalent of a staff member.
Yes.
So due to some of the past years, savings and aggressive efforts we took as a district, as an admin team, as a board, we were able to avoid an extra cut this
Yes.
year
Yes.
by utilizing some of that reserve we were able to put away. So
Yes.
the reserve is incredibly important to normalize a multi-year loss here.
Absolutely. I think that's one of our rudder in our boat, if you get, because I think that we have to, we're being prudent in every decision that we make, including this year. We're trying very hard again to look at everything and see, and again, this year being a little bit odd because of closings and COVID and things like that. But yes, that saved a decision for us.
But to that point, Patty, next year is the big year.
Yes. Yes.
So no matter every decision that we make now, we still have to think about next year and the year after that.
Yes.
Next
Because
year's,
everything compounds on itself.
Yep.
Whether it's a benefit, a salary, a cost for a piece of curriculum, everything will increase as it goes down the line.
Patty, could you give us a breakdown of the cost of reopening tests?
Yeah, we don't have all the costs in yet, but we're roughly running about 65,000. We have, our plexiglass, our desks, the IT relocation, our movers, and then we haven't gotten all of the stipend requests in from all of our teachers for having them move yet. But I'm assuming, they'll be in because they're still in the process of doing that. We have some additional cleaning supplies, things like that. So I'm hopeful to keep it at around 75 once it's all done.
Hey, Patty,
Yes.
could you restate again the rough breakdown regarding healthcare, if they're going the old way or the new way?
So
And follow up, you could just go right into it. Do you have a projection on what trend will happen over the next year or two?
so the way that it works is that the old plan, the old way, Chapter 78 is what it was called. Our healthcare was a percentage. We paid a percentage of premium. So an employee, as an employee, if my premium was $10,000, my salary was on a chart.
Right.
I came up to a percentage, say it was 5%. That was what I paid over the life of my year.
Got it.
Now the way it is that if it's just simply a percentage of salary, and they're much lower percentages. So I can tell you personally for myself, my contribution has cut in half. So the district has taken up that cost.
Is that universal across the admin team?
I can't really speak to that.
Maybe not cut in half, but is there a preference for one way or the other?
There's a significant savings for every employee. So that the district is bearing.
Dan, remember, one of the big things is after July 1st, any hire to a school district in New Jersey doesn't have a choice.
Yes.
You are automatically locked in for a period of 7 years into the new plan.
That,
You can still
didn't
opt
that
out and
trigger,
not take insurance,
yeah,
but you can't, if you choose to take insurance from a district, you
Right.
have to take this one.
didn't that trigger earlier for the admin, or am I thinking of something else?
No,
No.
no, it was all the
Oh,
same.
all right.
All same time. I'm sorry, and your second part of your question, I'm sorry, Dan.
Do you have a projection on what the trend will look like over the next couple of years?
Yeah, I think it's going to go up. And I think it's going to go from 92 to probably 120 is what I'm expecting. More cost for the district.
Okay.
Well, cost shifting. It's not savings, it's a cost shift.
It's cost shift, yeah, yeah, and we end up paying it.
And that's not based on premium increases. That's just based on utilization you're talking.
But I think it's based on, yes, utilization.
So then we could see further increases based on premium changes.
Yeah, because once you get into this and once they get actuarial numbers and they see what's happening, the state, we don't know what's going to happen with the premiums. They say right now that the premiums are supposed to be less, but we don't know.
Now, Patty, correct me if I'm wrong. There's another plan the state's putting in
Yeah.
as well. And I think that's going to be even more costly to school districts, correct?
Yeah, it's a less expensive plan right now. It's called the Garden State Health Plan. I think that goes into effect July of this year, I think. And it's a much more restrictive plan. That's why it does have a less cost, a less cost impact on the employee, but we will probably still bear I haven't seen any numbers for it yet. I haven't seen any premiums or anything like that.
Anybody have any other questions for Patty?
Enough good news for one day.
I'm sorry. But thank you for listening to me and thank you for your support while we were working on the budget. I appreciate it.
Thank
Thanks for
you,
putting it all
Patty.
together.
Yeah, Patty, thank you for doing such an awesome job. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
You made it easy for us this year. Thank you.
Nice job, Patty.
All right, seeing nobody has any more questions, we'll move forward with approval of the minutes for the regular meeting of February 16th. Can I get a motion?
So moved, Kevin?
Second, Vicky.
Gail? Any questions or comments? Patty, roll call?
Mrs. Corey,
Yes.
Mr. Dilks,
Yes.
Colonel Hensky,
Yes.
Dr. Jones,
Yes.
Mr. Lepsis,
Yes.
Dr. McCloy,
Yes.
Mrs. Shoemaker,
Yes.
Mrs. Saylor,
Yes.
Mrs. Chamberlain.
Yes.
Thank you.
The executive session, February 16th. Motion?
So moved, Vicky.
Dan will take second.
And second, any questions or comments? Roll call?
Mrs. Corey,
Yes.
Mr. Dilks,
Yes.
Colonel Hensky,
Yes.
Dr. Jones,
Yes on the first, abstain on the second.
number 2, thank you. Mr. Lepsis,
Yes.
Dr. McCloy,
Yes.
Mrs. Shoemaker,
Yes.
Mrs. Saylor,
Yes.
thank you, Mrs. Chamberlain.
Yes. The special meeting of February 26, 2021. Can I get a motion?
So moved, Kevin?
Second, Gail.
Any questions or comments? Roll call?
Mrs. Corey,
Yes.
Mr. Dilks,
Yes.
Colonel Hensky,
Yes.
Dr. Jones,
Abstain.
Mr. Lepsis,
Yes.
Dr. McCloy,
Yes.
Mrs. Shoemaker,
Yes.
Mrs. Saylor,
Yes.
Mrs. Chamberlain.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. We're going to do public comment. Is there a second public comment tonight?
Yes.
Yes,
There is, right?
yes.
Didn't see it on the agenda. Okay. First, sorry. So for public comment, please state your name and address. Each speaker will be allotted a maximum of 3 minutes. No one may speak more than once on the same topic. Please keep your comments respectful and non-defamatory. Keep in mind that it may not always be possible or appropriate for the board to directly answer questions during public comment periods. And at this time, you may speak on agenda items only. I can't, oh, there we go. Do we have any hands?
I see one, but I can't see
I
who it
think
is.
Kyle just brought her up.
Okay.
Am I being heard?
Yes,
Rachel? Hi,
Yeah,
Rachel. Could you please give your name and address?
Rachel Farrington, 228 Oakshade Road.
Go ahead.
So I'm speaking on behalf of the aides that help our children on and off the bus and possibly having them cut out of the school system. I just wanted to say from personal experience and a lot of other parents in the area that their help is very appreciated and is necessary for some of our students, especially my son particularly, who does have an IEP and his special needs. Without them, there wouldn't be a guarantee on some days that he would be able to get on the bus, get strapped in, and get to the school and home safely. I really do think that this needs to be considered to keep them because they do play such a really big role in our children's safety on these buses. Me personally, being a parent of my 4-year-old who attends the school system and a very small child, and even with the current state of 2021 and being in the pandemic still, I wouldn't feel comfortable getting on the bus and strapping my child in there with other kids on the bus for possible exposure. Limiting exposure also, we have these aides that don't come in contact with the parent, but the child gets on safely. So I believe that they should continue to have a giant role with our children and in the school system.
Mrs. Farrington, although I can't really comment on the what the board pushed for in terms of outsourcing potentially or investigating that or opening negotiations, what I can tell you is that no matter what, paraprofessionals, aides, however you want to call them, will still be in existence in the school district no matter what happens, as they are still something that would be required by students' IEPs. So I just want to make sure you know that. Again, I can't comment beyond that part, but I just want to make sure. It seems like there's been a misconception, people thinking that the school district would not have people in those jobs in some capacity. And that's something I just want to make sure is definitely clear that that's not the case.
Yeah, because it was brought to my attention that the actual position itself as being a school bus aide was something that was going to possibly be nulled.
And that's why I was concerned that was a misconception that was out there, Ms. Farrington. That again, that an IEP would dictate certain things and certain jobs that we would have to have as a school district. So whether it be, people that are directly employed by the school district or outsourced, the positions themselves as being assistants, paraprofessionals, aides, whatever you call them, they would still be existing.
Okay. Well, I appreciate your time and listening to my my concerns, and hopefully things get straightened out.
You're welcome. Thank you very much for speaking tonight.
Thank you for having me.
Are there any other questions or comments? Comments, I should say. All right, seeing none. Okay, we're going to move ahead with the superintendent reports.
Well, today was a fantastic day. Today, March 15th, 1 year after our schools went to a full remote status, we went and brought students back. We had our K-4 students were once again gracing the halls of TES. We had collapsed our cohorts. We got through a fantastic day. We thank all our parents who sat through the long wait to drop off your kids or pick them up with our new drop off and pickup procedures at TES. And thank you, Mr. McKean, for devising that great plan. We had just smiling faces in the halls. Our teachers, were thrilled to be back at TES. Our classrooms were set up safely thanks to the hard work of our custodian crew, our movers, everything else. Our IT department made sure when students walked in, teachers walked in, everything was up and running, whether it be the Wi-Fi from our access points that were reinstalled or for our smart boards that were in all the classrooms that needed to be there. It was just a fantastic day all around, and a little bit cold outside, but definitely warm in the classroom, seeing all those smiles and seeing everyone back there. It was really just a fantastic thing to see, and great learning experiences by all. And I'm very excited that come next Monday, we'll have the same experience across the street at OMS as we welcome grades 5 to 8 with the collapsing of cohorts again, increasing the number of students we'll have in our buildings. And our team is working hard to make sure, just as they were at TES, that everything done is OMS in terms of room moves, setting things up in terms of physical needs, and technology needs and everything else. So come the 22nd, we're ready to rock and roll with that as well. And again, one more thing to reiterate with everyone, please note that I know I've had a lot of emails recently as spring break is quickly approaching, asking questions about the state's travel ban. We have reached out. Again, you can also go to the DOE or DOH's website. The New Jersey travel restrictions are still there. So we please ask that if you are traveling, let us know if you're traveling out of the direct area so you quarantine your child. The Burlington County Department of Health put out an advisory this morning to school districts advising us to close for the first week after spring break. It is not our intention to do so. We are bringing our students back. We want to keep our buildings open. Why did they send out their advisory? Because they're so concerned about people traveling and bringing COVID back. But we trust our families. We think that our families, if they are going away, are going to reach out, let us know, so that way we can put the students in quarantine and then make sure that are keeping our buildings open. We're keeping our students safe, our staff safe, our community safe, just as we've done all year. So again, please, if you are reaching out, if you are traveling, reach out. We still have the live streaming capabilities for students who are quarantining. No issue on that one. We want to do everything we can to make sure that we are only going forward, not backwards, and our buildings are staying open throughout the rest of this year. So we thank all the parents for letting us know, and we're going to send out a reminder again to our families, making sure that if they're not watching tonight, that they see that information again so they can keep on working with us as we work with them to ensure that our buildings stay open and our students are educated within our buildings. Thank you.
Sean, can I ask a question?
Absolutely.
Okay. The parents are aware of that. What about staff that might travel?
Same thing. We've told
Are we
staff-
set up if they have to quarantine?
We will have to do that just as we've been doing all year. We have done a great job of juggling, whether it be substitute situations, staff situations, if anyone comes in, and as we've done all year in terms of positive cases. But we're very hopeful that we'll not have a situation that requires us, like I said, to do anything that would require our buildings to be shut down for any period of time.
Because I'm just thinking back to right before Christmas, when you had to shut down early because of the number of people that were not necessarily had COVID, but had a quarantine because they came in contact with someone.
Exactly. And that's why we're saying, Gail, we just want to make sure that people aren't traveling that could potentially bring something back. Or if you are traveling, just, let us know so we can set everything up for your child to learn from home. If we're going to learn from home, that we're not taking a chance of having a large quarantine situation again. We have reached out, multiple times to the Department of Health to find out if there was any change expected. And they came back and said, right now, they're not expecting to change the guidelines. In fact, they just reiterated again their guidelines to us and followed up with the recommendation that schools go remote as a preventative measure. But again, I think that we're opening our buildings up. I'd like to keep our buildings open, and I'd like to put a little trust and ask that our community, if you are going away, let us know so we can set everything up to keep our buildings open as we're moving.
Okay, any other questions for Sean? All right, seeing none, let's go to reports for committees. Ed Tech, Dr. Jones?
So the Ed Tech Committee met on February 22nd from about 6:30 p.m. to 8:05 p.m. In attendance was myself, Mrs. Corey, Mr. Dilks, Mr. Hensky, Mr. Bannon, Mrs. Gallagher, Mr. McKean, and Mrs. Palmieri. The vast majority dealt with the road forward, which we had an entire special meeting on, so I'm not going to reiterate that. The other little topic was state testing. So the state has applied for a federal waiver against the New Jersey Student Learning Assessments for 2020-2021. And there was a question regarding whether that would impact the district having feedback on student achievement. Just to let you know, the district usually does not get that data back till the summer or the fall. The district is still planning on doing the MAP test for all students in the spring. We had the fall, we had winter for select groups, and those ones would provide our staff with meaningful, timely feedback on student successes and areas for remediation. And they're also looking to pilot I think it's called LinkedIn, to be able to link some of our assessments to NJSLA benchmarks. So that's the highlights.
Thank you. Human Resources, Mrs. Saylor. You're muted.
I know, I got it. So Human Resources, we met March 8th. It was myself, Meg Jones, Gail Corey, Steve Hensky, and Mr. Bannon. We discussed staffing and the 2 potential retirees, which are listed on tonight's agenda. There was discussion about the paraprofessionals and that staffing and conversation. We looked at, or the potential is being looked at for the schedules for next school year, with TES being open. The district is having conversations with sending districts about the potential for shared services. And an additional item, Sean has advised that there is the potential need to change a part-time position. We're looking into what that is going to do in terms of cleaning facilities and of course with busing, because we have lots of need for people in those positions. That's it.
Okay. Any questions from Mrs. Saylor? Operations, Mr. Lepsis.
We met on Friday, March 5th. It was Mr. Bannon, Mrs. Palmieri, Mrs. Chamberlain, Mrs. Shoemaker, myself from the board, and then Dan DeGangi and Ji Yang from Bowman and Company, the district's outside auditors. We gave a fairly detailed presentation on the audit that was finalized at the end of January, which is shortly or a little later than the normal due to the some state actions and the pandemic. The auditors overall were very pleased with the administrator's abilities and cooperation, and the results of it were all good. There were some very minor discussion points that they raised because we pay them a lot of money and they're obligated to raise some points. So we did discuss those and they were all resolved to the satisfaction of the auditors and the admin and the board. After that, we discussed the transition from on-course to real-time that is being proposed. And it also had some fairly in-depth budget discussions that Patty pretty much covered earlier today, so I will not reiterate all those, but that was the highlights.
Very good. Any questions for Mr. Lepsis? Seeing none. Policy, Mr. McCloy.
We met on February 16th. It was myself, Mrs. Chamberlain, Mrs. Saylor, Dr. Jones, Mr. Bannon, and Mrs. Palmieri. We reviewed all of the policies that you see on the agenda later tonight. I will not bore everyone by going through them. There are several that are going to be abolished and incorporated into other policies. And then there were also changes related to changing over and updating from No Child Left Behind to Every Student Succeeds Act. So those are a lot of the changes that you see in those policies that we're reviewing tonight as well.
Okay, any questions? Seeing none. Liaison reports, New Jersey School Board Associations, Mrs. Corey.
Okay, the other thing I have is the next delegate assembly is scheduled for May 15th.
Okay. Burlington County School Board Association, Ms. Shoemaker. You're muted.
Sorry about that. There's a meeting next Thursday, the 25th, and is specifically for either the president or the vice president. And you can register online for that.
Okay. For HSA, there was a meeting on February 19th. There was a lot of money raised, believe it or not, even though we're not in school. The holiday shop made about $100. The box tops, they've made $615 since June. The Panzerotti sale apparently was a huge hit for $1,600. Save Around was $150. New business was the yearbook. It's for pre-K to 5. It's an online purchase of $15. They need help with the layout and asking for pictures. There was a discussion and a motion raised for the school playground. There was a motion approved for $10,000. I understand that's on hold for right now, though. The book fair is virtual. It was until March 1st. The Stocks pound cake which are the best pound cakes in the world. I have no idea, but I'm just saying that because I got yelled at last time. Will be April 29th. Delivery is April 29th. They should be starting shortly, 3/22. The raffle, the application is in the town's hands. That's for the bingo that was canceled a year ago. There'll be tickets sold and there'll be a raffle. If you bought your bingo tickets last time, you will automatically receive tickets. Look for information coming out. I did just see a Facebook post today on that. The clothing drive is set for May 21st, so start cleaning out your closets. Amazon Smile and box tops are always a good thing. Mrs. Murrow did a week of giving for February 22nd to the 26th to support the playground project. Next meeting is this Thursday, the 18th. Okay. Education Foundation, Colonel Hensky.
Oh, sorry, hit the wrong button. Nothing significant to report at this time. Sorry.
Okay. CPAG, Mrs. Shoemaker?
Yes, the CPAG meeting was on March 2nd. The presenter was Dr. Karen Gischler. She's a psychologist. She addressed the toll of the pandemic and how anxiety and depression may manifest in children. It was very well done, very well presented. There was give and take between the presenter and the people that were there. One of the things that she did was she talked about the different behaviors, what they looked like, and what your responses should be. For instance, if they are, I'm not going to go through the whole thing. I apologize, I forgot to send this to Marlene, but it is in there now. If they are reluctant to separate from the parents or home, that would be the behavior. Your reaction would be to reinforce the safety precautions that they know that everybody in the family is using when they go out of the home. And they talk about the things that they need, the tools to keep them safe. And I thought one of the very important things was, she made some recommendations, was to not say it will be okay. You have to be honest with them and you have to validate their fears and their worries and handle it in a very positive way. The suggestions are all there. She talked about the difference between pathological behaviors, which need more professional help. And she gave a lot of recommendations for families. The next meeting is June 1st, and there's no topic set yet.
Real quick before I call on you, Dan, can I step back to HSA? I was just sent a text since the meeting, the yearbook is now pre-K to 4 and 5th grade will be in the OMS. Sorry about that. Okay, sorry. Dan, wellness?
There was no meeting.
No meeting. And Township Council, Dr. Jones?
No meeting.
Okay. Okay, so recommendations of the superintendent. Under education, we have 1 through 3. Can I get a motion?
So moved, Vicky.
Second, Megan.
Any questions or comments? Seeing none, Patty, will you do a roll call?
Sure. Mrs. Corey,
Yes.
Mr. Dilks,
Yes.
Colonel Hensky,
Yes.
Dr. Jones,
Yes.
Mr. Lepsis,
Yes.
Dr. McCoy,
Yes.
Mrs. Shoemaker,
Yes.
Mrs. Saylor,
Yes.
Mrs. Chamberlain.
Yes. Under personnel, we have 1 through 11. I have a motion.
So moved, Gail.
No. Second,
Second, Vicky.
Kevin.
we're going with Vicky. Questions or comments? Seeing none,
I'm sorry, I have one.
Dan's got one.
Yep, for items number 1, 6, 9, and 10, those are all the FMLA requests. I think it's assumed, but I just want to make sure we have long-term subs identified for coverage.
We do.
Thank you.
No problem.
Any other questions? Patty, roll call?
Mrs. Corey,
Yes.
Mr. Dilks,
Yes.
Colonel Hensky,
Yes.
Dr. Jones,
Yes.
Mr. Lepsis,
Yes.
Dr. McCloy,
Yes.
Mrs. Shoemaker,
Yes.
Mrs. Saylor,
Yes.
and Mrs. Chamberlain.
Yes.
Thank you.
The financial, we have 1 through 17.
So moved. Brian?
Brian? Second,
Steve?
Steve, any questions or comments? Seeing none? Patty?
Sorry, I couldn't get off mute. I'm sorry.
Dan again.
I'm sorry. Number 12, the movement of the 2 board meeting dates.
Yes.
By moving the first one a week later and the second one a week earlier, that only gives us a 2-week interval between them. Is everyone's checked that and good with that?
Yeah, these are moved because of budget purposes in terms of presenting the budget and so
Gotcha.
on. And unfortunately, with the way the spring break falls this year, we had to
Okay.
make some adjustments.
Understood. Thank you.
No problem. Thank you.
Any other questions? Patty?
Mrs. Corey,
Yes.
Mr. Dilks,
Yes.
Colonel Hensky,
Yes.
Dr. Jones,
Yes.
Mr. Lepsis,
Yes.
Dr. McCloy,
Yes.
Mrs. Shoemaker,
Yes.
Mrs. Saylor,
Yes.
Mrs. Chamberlain.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, so approval of resolution 210113.
So moved.
Who was that?
Brian?
Brian?
Second, Kevin.
Did I have to read any of that?
That's why I moved that way.
You can, yeah, yeah.
So be it resolved that the Tabernacle Township School District Board of Education adopt the following resolution to approve and submit the tentative 2021. Oh, that's 21. Sorry, there's a typo.
Oh, sorry, it's supposed to be 21-22. Sorry.
Yep. Got it. Annual school budget. The board also accepts the New Jersey Department of Education notification of 21-22 state aid and authorizes the administration to make minor adjustments to the budget as required by the Burlington Executive County Superintendent of Schools. Whereas the School Funding Reform Act of 2008 requires the submission of an itemized budget to the Executive County Superintendent of Schools by March 20th, 2021. Whereas the Executive County Superintendent will review the budget documents and either approve them or recommend adjustments. Whereas the board will have additional opportunities to modify this budget at future meetings after review by the Executive County Superintendent or at the public hearing on April 26, 2021. Whereas the school board authorizes the school business administrator board secretary to submit the following tentative 21-22 annual school budget and accepts the New Jersey Department of Education notification of 21-22 state aid. Whereas supporting documentation of this budget also contains an itemization of certain expenditures required under administrative regulations. Now therefore be it resolved that the school board approves the following 21-22 tentative annual school budget for submission to the Executive County Superintendent as follows. There's a little chart. Be it further resolved to acknowledge that 2021 budget, 21-22 budget as described above includes the use of bank capped in the amount of 0. Be it further resolved to acknowledge that the 21-22 budget as described above includes the use of the adjustment for healthcare costs in the amount of 0 and the enrollment adjustment in the amount of 0. Be it further resolved to acknowledge that the 21-22 budget, as described above, includes the transfer of $75,000 from maintenance reserve to the general fund to support required maintenance. Be it further resolved that the board authorizes the board secretary to advertise said budget in the official newspapers of the district in accordance with the forms required by the State Department of Education and according to law. So the motion was Brian. Was there a second?
Dr. McCoy.
Was there any questions or comments?
I missed part of that, Meg. Can you read it again?
No. Rewind the tape. I hate reading these things. Seeing no other comments. Patty?
Mrs. Corey,
Yes.
Mr. Dilks,
Yes.
Colonel Hensky,
Yes.
Dr. Jones,
Yes.
Mr. Lepsis,
Yes.
Dr. McCoy,
Yes.
Mrs. Shoemaker,
Yes.
Mrs. Saylor,
Yes.
Mrs. Chamberlain.
Yes.
Thank you. And a big thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you. You're the one that did all the work. Okay, approval of resolution 21-014, maximum travel amounts for 21-22 budget.
So moved, Brian.
Second, Vicky.
Whereas statute in each pre-budget year, the Tabernacle Township School District Board of Education is required to establish a maximum travel expenditure amount for the budget year which may not exceed. And whereas the Tabernacle Township School Board of Education has determined that the maximum travel expenditure amount includes all travel that is supported by state and local funds. And whereas the Tabernacle Township School Board of Education elects to exclude travel expenditures supported by federal funds from the maximum travel amount. Now therefore be it resolved that the Tabernacle Township School District Board of Education hereby establishes the maximum travel expenditures for the 2021-2022 school year to be no more than $24,650 with regular business travel for any one individual not to exceed $1,500 in accordance with statute. Any questions or comments? Patty?
Mrs. Corey,
Yes.
Mr. Dilks,
Yes.
Colonel Hensky,
Yes.
Dr. Jones,
Yes.
Mr. Lepsis,
Yes.
Dr. McCoy,
Yes.
Mrs. Shoemaker,
Yes.
Mrs. Saylor,
Yes.
Mrs. Chamberlain.
Yes.
Thank you.
Under policy, we have first readings of about 15 different policies and regulations.
So moved.
Second,
Kevin.
Jones.
Karen and Jones. Any questions or comments? Patty?
Mrs. Corey,
Yes.
Mr. Dilks,
Yes.
Colonel Hensky,
Yes.
Dr. Jones,
Yes.
Mr. Lepsis,
Yes.
Dr. McCoy,
Yes.
Mrs. Shoemaker,
Yes.
Mrs. Saylor,
She's muted.
Dramatic
Yes.
pause.
Dramatic pause, exactly.
I'm
Dave,
sorry,
one more
Mrs.
time, Judy.
Yes.
Thank you. Mrs. Chamberlain,
Yes.
thank you.
Harassment, intimidation, and bullying report, 1 and 2. Can I have a motion?
So moved, Vicky.
Second, Steve.
Second.
Questions or comments? Seeing none?
Mrs. Corey,
Yes.
Mr. Dilks,
Yes.
Colonel Hensky,
Yes.
Dr. Jones,
Yes.
Mr. Lepsis,
Yes.
Dr. McCoy,
Yes.
Mrs. Shoemaker,
Yes.
Mrs. Saylor,
Yes.
Mrs. Chamberlain.
Yes.
Thank you.
Start playing some music right there.
Dramatic pause.
Yeah, exactly. or a drum roll or something. Okay, so enrollment for tests, we have 146, OMS 523. Are those correct numbers for today?
They were as the time the agenda was created as a Friday. So you will see a very big difference on there at the next meeting.
Okay. So for a total, we have a couple out of district and then a total of 673. Very good. Do we have any unfinished business? Do we have any new business? All right, page. Our second public comment, there it is. Please state your name and address. Each speaker will be allotted a maximum of 3 minutes. No one may speak more than once on the same topic. Please keep your comments respectful and non-defamatory. Keep in mind that it may not always be possible or appropriate for the board to directly answer questions during public comment periods. At this time, you may speak on educational matters not of a personal nature. Okay, I see some hands already. We got Kelly.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yep.
Hi, Kelly Furon, 11 Jessica Court. I just had a question with regards to the rather large plan to purchase playground equipment for the OMS property. With the grades now being moved back to TES, I was just curious if there has been any discussion about going through with that plan. It doesn't seem necessary at this point. And if not going through with it, a question of how much money has been raised so far and what is the plan with the money that has been raised.
Mrs. Farron, at this time, we did discuss with the HSA, the Ed Foundation, that we are going to hold off on the plan to build the playground. With the students over at TES, it did not seem like it really made sense to spend the large sum of money to put a playground at OMS if the students were not going to be there physically to use it. So I can't speak for the Ed Foundation and for the HSA, who are the two major organizations that directly raise funds, at what they're going to intend to use those for. So that's something I'd say would be better used for them.
Okay, the money that was donated during the week of giving.
Well, I'm so sorry. We haven't had a conversation with those organizers about that. I know that plan was raised primarily through our teaching association. Did a great job with that, with Mrs. Murrow, Mr. Flake taking the charge on that one. So we do want to have a sit down. We unfortunately, with the move and everything else that we just been through, haven't had time to sit down with them to see if there's something we could even use that money for to perhaps enhance some of the TES playground or some other way to still benefit the students directly.
Okay, all right, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, the next hand I see, it's VALENTEM, Valentem. Could you please state your name and address, please?
Hi, this is Megan Valente.
Oh, there we go. Sorry about that.
The email. I'm actually here reading this on behalf of Catherine Adams. In regards to our paraprofessionals this evening, she is at 72 Summit Lane or Road here in Tabernacle. Here we go. So, like many families with young children, when my husband and I started looking for a home to purchase, one of our biggest priorities was the school district. When we found a home in Tabernacle, we were elated by the standards that our daughter's future school espoused. We didn't realize at the time just how important that those standards would ultimately be for us, because our child, as it turned out, had autism. There is a lot of talk about autism these days and how children can live a relatively normal life in most cases. And for most families, that's true. Not for mine. My daughter was nonverbal until she was 4. And even now, after 2 years later, language is a complex puzzle that she has little interest in solving. The lack of comprehension has an understandable side effect. Excuse me. She gets frustrated easily and lashes out. The light of our lives is also a very big handful. When she first started attending Tabernacle Elementary School, I worried, just like any overprotective parent, that she'd be thrown into a terrifying situation where her rudimentary communication skills would leave her scared and isolated. After all, when you have a child like mine, you learn to speak and interpret her language. That's a parent's job. not something you expect of others. You don't expect them to have to have the same patience, the same forgiveness when she lashes out and leaves a scratch on your arm. You don't expect a stranger to learn your child's language because that requires time, patience, and a passion for this job. The educational staff at Tabernacle Elementary School and Olson Middle School astound me. My child's teacher is exceptional, but she is also in charge of an entire room of children whose issues are similar to those of my child. Alone, there is no degree or amount of passion for the job that you could have to juggle my child along with others, but she hasn't been alone. The aides that go into my daughter's class every day are lifesavers. Patient when my child's upset. They take the physical damage that comes with an autistic tantrum and never once made me feel guilty about it. They learned her language. They celebrate her every small victory with us along the way. They see that she doesn't wander or get lost. They dance with her when she wants to dance, guide her when she is receptive to learning. They can recognize when she is receptive to learning, and I cannot overstate what a difficult task that is. The aides in my daughter's class are a stand-in parent so that I can feel confident that during the day my child is safe. The idea that this district wants to take them away makes me sick. This is not a call center where you can just outsource a job to someone overseas to save a few dollars. The impacted children of families that the decision wouldn't be some annoyed people asking for a supervisor. They are the very people who are staring down the barrel of losing all of those little victories we have fought so hard for. We are being told that to save some money, our children's helpers, the people that are painstakingly learned their language, that have earned their trust, which is so hard to do. If you don't have an autistic child to demonstrate it for you, you are being cut loose. People who have risked their lives during a pandemic because they wanted to make sure that these children in this large environment are given the best. People whose passion for this job have kept them coming back over and over to a child who bites and scratches, but has won their heart enough that she'll stand on their feet to dance the way that only her family will do. People who have proven themselves to family they have support time and time again. They are the people you want to replace in a basement bargain lowest bidder agency workers. You are suggesting saving money here. What? You don't want to pay for those aides. You don't want to pay for what those aides are worth, I have to assume. Thank you.
Thank you. Jennifer Tyler?
Hi, are you able to hear me?
Yep, could you please state your name and address, please?
Jen Tyler, 3 Elmo Drive.
Thank you.
My question is, a few months ago, there was a meeting about a potential app that the school was thinking of using. Children could use it to potentially ask for help if there was an issue at home or if there was bullying at school. It was another avenue. I haven't heard any updates since then. I do apologize. I can't remember the name of the app. But there was a lot of go around and confusion, and they had spoken about possibly having someone from the company come in to kind of evaluate. And I was just wondering if there was any updates on that particular app.
We actually, Ms. Styler, the app you're referring to is Stop It. We actually had decided as a district to stop moving forward in that direction of pursuing that app at this time, based on the feedback we had from a number of our families. I had reached out after hearing about the presentation. So that's why we didn't arrange for them to actually come and speak to us.
Was there something else that they were going to try in place of this, or was it just stopped altogether?
The Stop It app altogether was stopped being pursued that entirely. Doesn't mean that we won't find something else to take some of the functionality, but that was not an avenue that we were pursuing at this time.
Oh, that's what I was trying to ask was there something else that you were looking into, or you haven't gotten that far yet?
Right now, we haven't found anything else that met some of those issues, but doesn't mean we won't come up with something again in the future. But right now, that was not something we were pursuing.
Okay, I was just curious if there was an update on that. Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Krista Crilly?
Hi.
Hi, could you state your name and address, please?
Sure. Krista Curley, 28th Lane, but I am reading on behalf of Kate Smith, 32 Fox Hill Drive. I am writing this on behalf of my children, Braden and Lucas Smith. Braden is in 3rd grade. He has an IEP due to childhood apraxia of speech and a specific learning disability. Braden has attended school in Tabernacle since his 3rd birthday, February 16th, 2015. That day was the day he met a woman that would change his life forever, and to this day still has an impact on his education. Her name is Stephanie Tyberski. She was the first person to meet my nonverbal 3-year-old that day and never left his side, not because she needed to, but because she wanted to. Over the next 6 years, so many of our amazing paras have made a difference to Braden's education, this year especially. I don't know what Braden or our family would do without Jamie Stanton. She has been the constant person during virtual learning. She makes sure all of his assignments are completed. She has helped me when I thought I couldn't get through the day. My son Lucas is in 1st grade. He went to pre-K at TES. He is a typical child, but he has had the benefit of having Liz, Sandy, Wendy, and Amy in his classroom. They are familiar faces to him in a time when I feel children need consistency. If these amazing women were not there anymore, I feel it would have a direct impact on my children's education. They are treasures to all the children in Tabernacle, and we need to find a way to keep them in our family. Kate Smith.
Thank you, Krista. Jody Mundy.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, thank you. Jody Mundy, I live in Lumberton. I teach at TES, but I am reading a letter on behalf of Debbie Snodgrass, who lives at 1512 Route 206.
Yep.
Says, members of the Board of Education, please reconsider outsourcing our paraprofessionals. Our paras are essential to our children as well as the teachers. They go above and beyond every single day. They love our children like their own. The paras are familiar with our children's needs, wants, and limitations. They know how to react when an issue arises. Our kids need consistency in their lives. If you take that away, God knows how this will affect them. How would you feel if this was happening to your children? I know you wouldn't stand by and let it happen. Taking someone they love and trust away and replacing.
Where'd she go?
Lost her.
There she is. Miss Mundy, unmute.
Hi, can you hear me? I'm sorry, did you hear any of it?
Yeah, we
Yes.
heard it. Yep.
I don't know what happened. So, I don't know. Should I start again? Because I don't know where you lost me.
We lost you right where you were saying we would fight for our own kids.
Okay. I know you wouldn't stand by and let it happen. Taking someone they love and trust away and replacing them with a revolving door of people they don't know would be detrimental. It breaks my heart that you would even consider outsourcing.
Are you there? Did we lose you again?
No, I finished. I think
Okay.
I finished.
All right. Thank you very much. Jade Gordon.
Hi there, Jade Gordon, teacher at OMS. I am reading on behalf of a parent, Terry LaPresti Moore, 333 Medford Lakes, Tabernacle Road. Dear Board of Education members, I would like to voice my support for the paras that assist my son every day at Tabernacle. The aid they provide my son is such a relief and a benefit for his well-being. My son is not an easy child, but it does not make me love him any less. So for the powers that assist him, and sometimes me, 5 half-days a week, I thank you. My child does not open up to someone very easily. He is a tough nut to crack. It has taken my son from September through the end of February to really become comfortable with the schedule and regularity of school. There have been so many changes for him already. Heading to the middle school for instruction, half-day schedules, combined class. Now the decision to head back to TES has impacted him most severely, as his peers will return to TES. My son will remain in the middle school without his peers, the ones he has been with since special pre-K. If we are lucky, he will be taken back across the street for gym class and maybe specials. I want you each to imagine, after the pandemic year we have already had, shifting kids from here to there and back. Now imagine being a special needs kid that takes comfort and thrives in a normal, consistent routine, going through the halls of OMS on Monday and not seeing one friend all day, because now they are all across the street. Is your child going to be okay? Are they going to flourish or regress? Please contemplate this as you again entertain bringing in hourly employees to take care of our special needs and disadvantaged kids. Respectfully, Terry Lepresti Moore. Thank you.
Thank you. John Tirico.
Hey guys,
Hi, John.
John Tirico, 3 Hidden Acres Drive, Tabernacle, New Jersey. I'll be quick. I just had 3 items I wanted to just bring up if you guys could help me with this. All right, so there's many differences between the positions, all right, that you guys listed last week in the 90-day notice. You got the educational technology specialist, library media specialist assistants, special education assistants, educational assistants for autistic, kindergarten assistants, and classroom assistants. Is there any way possible you guys can share the job descriptions with the public so that people know the differences?
Just what you're, Mr. Tirico, if I understand you correctly, you're hoping that they would be posted somewhere like on the website or something like that?
Yeah, I mean, possibly, yeah.
We can discuss that.
All right.
Thank you.
I got two more items. I'll use the rest of my couple minutes I got left here. The change to real time, right? The SIS you guys have, the student information system.
Mm-hmm.
Is that just for your Gen Pop, or is that for special education as well?
That's for everything, sir. It'd be an inclusive platform.
Okay. So all right, so then the training has to go into special education as well. When that obviously that comes with it.
Yes, sir.
All right. And last but not least, for this past year, what was the amount of extraordinary aid? You don't have to have this for me now, whatever. Get it to me when you can, or us when you can. The amount of extraordinary aid received by the district that was board approved this past year? Received and approved. And that's it. You guys have a nice night.
Thank you, John. Toby, really?
Hi, Toby Really, 14 Cuts Drive. I missed the very beginning of the meeting, so I don't know what I missed. But 2 things, since you were talking about the budget, is 1, I'm just curious how much money we got from the CARES Act and where in our budget we're able to use that to kind of alleviate some of the stress that we're experiencing, because that's what we've been hearing about the last few years. And the second one is, I think it would be a disservice to end this meeting without acknowledging that the whole year that our teachers have worked really, really hard in circumstances where they were shut down, the building, not the teaching, overnight. And they went from teaching in person over the weekend to teaching online, then come back teaching hybrid asynchronously, then synchronously, now welcoming kids back, the amount of changes that have happened. And I know this year has been difficult for everyone, but my kids wouldn't have had such a successful year without every bus driver, aide, teacher, administrator that works at that building that has made this very difficult year much easier on the kids that go to that school. So thank you to that.
Thank you, Toby.
Can I ask a question real quick?
Sure.
Sorry, Sean, to the point of when we get questions in, how do we respond as a district to the questions that are like open-ended that you obviously we can't respond to right now, but we get that information out? And to Mrs. Really's point, I think she makes a great point about thanking the teachers and the bus drivers, but also, the district, the administration, the parents, the kids. So I think we've all, as a team, come together and really done a great job at. We've tried our best on lack of policy and direction. So back to my original point, how do you want to formalize getting those answers out?
When they're direct questions, Steve, that we can answer them. There are times we do reach out to the individuals directly. There are times that we also then incorporate them into presentations we give at a later date to provide the answers to others. So it kind of depends on what it might be. Or at times there are questions that we can't answer for confidential things. So it kind of depends on the different categories of the questions themselves.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Okay, seeing no more hands. We're going to move ahead with Resolution 21015, authorization for executive session. Whereas statute allows for a public body to go into closed session during a public meeting. Somebody say something? Sorry. And whereas the Board of Education of the Tabernacle Township School District has deemed it necessary to go into closed session to discuss certain matters which are exempt from the public. And whereas the regular meeting of the Board of Education will reconvene at the conclusion of the closed session at approximately, Sean? 8:23 now.
Thinking hopefully no later than 8:45, if not sooner. You want to be optimistic? You tell me.
8:50. Never optimistic anymore. Now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Education of the Tabernacle Township School District will go into closed session for the following reasons as outlined in statute. Any matter involving the purchase, lease, or acquisition of real property with public funds, the setting of bank rates or investments of public funds where it could adversely affect the public interest if discussion of such matters were disclosed. Be it further resolved that the Board of Education hereby declares that its discussion of the aforementioned subjects may be made public at a time when the board attorney advises the Board of Education that the disclosure of the discussion will not detrimentally affect any rights, interests, or duty of the school district or any other entity with respect to said discussion. Be it further resolved that the Board of Education, for the aforementioned reasons, hereby declares that the public is excluded from this portion of the meeting during which the above discussion shall take place, and hereby the board secretary to take the appropriate action to effectuate the terms of this resolution. Will any action be taken? No, right? Okay, no action taken. Can I get a motion?
So moved,
Hello,
Vicky.
Brian.
Vicky, Brian, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye.
Which one was that, Judy?
Who said that?
That's too much.
Oh,
All in favor was an aye for me.
Dramatic pause.
Dramatic pause. Sorry, I forgot the dramatic pause. All in favor, all opposed, all abstain. Okay. We'll be back. Waiting for anybody, right? So we're back in session. Anything for miscellaneous? Seeing none. Adjournment
Moved.
motion, Kevin?
Second.
Judy? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? All abstain. Have a good night,
Awesome.
everybody.
Thank you, everybody.
Good
We
night.
lost Gail.
Gail too. Okay, thank you. Everybody said Balin.